This is now the second hour of BizCheck. My name is Betty Kiptum. In this hour, we want to talk about the upcoming 24th COMESA Summit. The Common Market of Eastern and Southern Africa, is converging here. 21 member countries, delegates, heads of state. They shall be converging here from the 6th to the 9th of October to discuss pertinent matters, including trade and how to ensure that intra-regional trade is being enhanced, and what challenges exist as well as the opportunities. And we'd like to have this conversation with me on my panel. I have to my left is Director of Industries at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, that is Gideon Apio Oele, as well as Admasu Tadesse, who is the Group Managing Director at Trade and Development Bank Group. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Karibuni sana. A bit of numbers about COMESA. 640 million people. That is a big, big potential market. We're talking a GDP of over $1 trillion. And yet we are yet to take advantage of this particular opportunity that exists. I'd like to throw it to you, Gideon, first of all, so that you tell us what the impact of this summit will be.
Thank you very much. The impact of this summit is of importance to us as a country. You imagine we are dealing with a GDP of 1 trillion, a population which is 12 times our population as a country. You compare that with our GDP, which is around 13 billion US dollars. So we expect a lot from this. It will impact on how we move our goods. That is the market, the big market. It will impact on how we develop our infrastructure to enable trade to take place. It will impact on our productive strategy. As a region, we do not have to, as a country, we do not have to produce everything. We need to specialize. It will impact on how the gender, the women, the youth should be interacting within the trading bloc. All this we expect to be addressed so that we have a region where we can seamlessly move around our goods. We move as people, and we are able to exploit those resources that we have been endowed with.
It's very important, of course, to open up the borders to ensure that the people and goods are moving. I'll bring you into the conversation, Mr. Tadesse, and let's talk about your expectations for this upcoming summit first.
Well, these summits are occasions to review progress that's been made with critical projects that help create that connectivity. So infrastructure has always been a very big constraint in getting our economies to work better together. And then, of course, there's other areas such as finance, which helps that infrastructure get developed alongside other role players. And then, of course, you have financing of the real economy, which is industry, agriculture, and then even social sectors such as healthcare and education, digital lending for the SMEs, who, of course, need to also be enabled to participate in the growth opportunities, both within countries and across borders. So the summit really is about the countries that represent the stakeholder community asking all the right questions around how to activate this big market of 650 million people that's been referred to. And of course, we live in a very complicated global order now, and Africans have understood that the one thing that we have under our own control is making sure that we can integrate and do better business with one another. And so that is still work in progress, but we do have a number of initiatives that are under implementation, and I think that is what will be discussed and reviewed. There is a lot to show for already. I think COMESA has come very far. The continental free trade area itself has come into force, as you're aware. But COMESA is one of the biggest building blocks of the Africa continental free trade area. So it's an important summit, and we're happy that Kenya is hosting it.
Right, of course we're happy. It's the third time that Kenya is hosting it. And you've brought in a point that Africa has realized that they have to look a little bit more inward than always depending on outside of the continent. And the first indication came during COVID when supply chains were locked and you know, we had to look inward and look at how to make sure that Africa is feeding its people and that things are moving within the continent. And then now there's the US policy that has gone into some sort of protectionism and doing now reciprocal tariffs with different countries. So I'd like to hear from you, both of you, of course, will answer this question in terms of exactly what governments should do to ensure that they're enhancing trade within each other's countries and opening up borders and ensuring that people can actually access these markets. It's not just a matter of saying we have 650 million people and yet there are tariffs and non-tariff barriers that are preventing us from accessing those markets. Let's start with you, Gideon.
Thank you very much. In any trade arrangement and in economic activity, we have two different sides. We have the policy and regulation that is within the government actually to come up with that. We have what in commerce we call aids to trade, and that is what we call trade facilitation. The banking, the communication, the transport, all these ones enable trade to take place. Even if we have the best policies in place and the aids to trade are not working, no trade will take place. So we expect that first we look at the infrastructures that facilitate trade. We look at our communication system. Are people in Central African Republic aware of what we are producing in Kenya? Maybe not. Because the way we communicate, they may not have that information. How is the information flowing to allow trade? You buy what you know is somewhere. If you don't know, no trade will take place. So let us turn your question. Why is it that we are not doing much trade amongst ourselves?
Right.
Why are we still depending on the markets in Europe and elsewhere? And of course, right now when there are issues with AGOA, we are panicking. So it is because we are depending heavily on those markets, while the same thing we should be doing locally. If you are here that if you want to move something from Kenya to Ghana, it would take months on the ICs to move some goods from our port here, going around up to. If we don't work on the infrastructure, if we don't work on aids to trade, then we still expect to make the best policies and produce goods that we cannot, because our transport system, our payment system, all these ones have been designed in a system that, in a way that you want to go to West Africa, maybe you still go to Europe, then you come back, things like that. So I think that is where the problems are. Our aids to trade are not working. Policies are in place. We want to trade. But you make that good and then you say, now I want to take it to Senegal. It becomes now an issue. How should this thing? So e-commerce, the digital trade, all those things should be activated so that we find a way of marketing our products in a way that instantly somebody in Ethiopia, somebody in Morocco would easily see that that product is available here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yourself, your contribution to that?
Well, you know, the region, as we've heard from Gideon, is trying to facilitate all of this trade and the synergies in the markets. But of course, the financing is an important part of it. And so we've played an important role to help Kenya actually actualize its aspirations to interconnect with its neighbors. So we've provided quite a bit of support to a number of Kenyan institutions, including Safaricom's of this world that are spreading their wings and going across borders to do the telecom side of interconnections. Energy as well, we're supporting the financing of projects that enable Kenya to access low-cost electricity from its neighbors. And then, of course, you have the banks in Kenya that have spread its wings, going into the DRC, going into Ethiopia, going into some of the other economies in the region, and that has all really been part of the facilitation that we speak of. And our role, of course, as COMESA is we have specialized financial institutions, TDB Group being one of them, and we obviously play an important role to put wind in the sails of various entities, whether they're private sector enterprises or public sector enterprises. We give that support. And then we support Kenya itself internally to grow its own energy, its own infrastructure, its own enterprises, because we are also a financial institution that supports diversification of the economy. Because for you to trade, you need to have diversification. If everybody is producing tea and coffee, as much as you have a big market, there won't be any potential to unlock there. So we're supporting industrial companies here, we're supporting SMEs, we're supporting agribusiness, we're supporting hospitals, we're supporting Kenya Airways. These are all the beneficiaries of COMESA that have actually managed to harness the resources that COMESA has brought together to enable these Kenyan institutions and companies actually unlock both the domestic economic potential and the trading opportunities around the country as well.
Mm-hmm. Let me stick with you on this one a little bit. It's about the issue of financing. Of course, we know that a lot of African countries, I'm not sure if there's any that does not net export raw materials, you know? And so what would it take to industrialize Africa, COMESA region? What would it take to make sure that we are not just, you know, exporting raw materials, we are adding value and getting more in terms of even foreign exchange? What would it take?
Well, it's unfortunately not as simple as we would like it to be, but there's a couple of critical factors. One of the foundational issues is cost of energy, because any form of industrialization relies on that. And so that has been work under progress that has actually been doing relatively well. Kenya's brought down its cost of electricity over the years. It's becoming a more competitive place to actually build manufacturing plants and to actually do industrial projects. So there's that benefit that's beginning to come through, but it's not enough. Of course, one needs to also ensure that the human capital is ready to be deployed. And the environment of doing business as a whole becomes very, very important. And I think the Kenyan government has been giving that a lot of attention to try to ensure that the competitiveness is there. We have to allow businesses to grow, to generate the job opportunities through that growth, so that all of these things that we talk about can happen. Mm-hmm. For us, we've managed to inject about $1.8 billion in Kenya over the years. From the COMESA financial institution base. And so it's been a great story. Kenya has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of COMESA funding. Others, of course, have also benefited, but Kenya has been one of the leading beneficiaries. At the moment, if you look at the COMESA bank's balance sheet, $1.3 billion is attributed directly to Kenya. So, and the sort of spread on the portfolio is very wide. It includes real estate, hospitals, aviation, agribusiness, energy companies. It's been a great story, and I think there's a very strong presence here with a regional operations hub. So there's a lot of activity that happens out of Nairobi. Mm-hmm. So it's been a lovely story, really, if you look at the COMESA impact, the footprint here in Kenya, very, very strong. And then you have other institutions like ATI, the Africa Trade Investment and Development Agency, you have ZEPRI, you have other agencies that also have very strong presence here in Nairobi. And so Kenya's been a very strong theater for COMESA institutions, and that has benefited Kenya a great deal.
Right. Thank you for that. As Director of Industries, Gideon, in Kenya, we know that day in, day out, manufacturers have complained that our cost of production is too high, hence the competitiveness of our products is affected, whether it's in the region or globally. And so I'd like to hear from you the same question, but now from a Kenyan perspective. What can be done to increase Kenya's competitiveness as a manufacturing powerhouse?
Truly, he has said it. I think the cost of power is an issue, and the government is struggling with how to go about it, because it is an issue that has been brought to the attention of the government. The business community, the manufacturers talk about it almost everywhere, that they are becoming uncompetitive. You take, for example, the cost of power in Egypt, I think 0.03 or something like that. Here it is 0.02 to something, over almost 10 times. Now you want to compete with a manufacturer from Egypt, for example, it becomes a little bit a nightmare to even imagine that you can compete. So the cost of power is an issue, and I think that is within now the realm of government priorities, and it is being worked on. It should actually come down. As a Director of Industries, I know it is perhaps the biggest obstacle to making our goods competitive, to promoting our industrialization strategy. So truly, that is an issue, and a big issue to that. We also know that we are having goods from outside the country. We import goods from outside the continent, and these goods come from countries that have actually several advantages over us. And when they come here, because of power as one of the biggest problems, it becomes a little bit difficult actually to produce even and to compete. As East Africa community, where we belong, there are quite a number of instruments in place to help our manufacturers to manufacture. We have what we call duty remission, where you bring a raw material or an input that we are not producing locally. The government will allow you to bring it duty-free. We have what we call industrial spares. Industrial spares you bring duty-free to service your factories. So a number of things are happening to make it easier and cheaper to manufacture. So let me admit actually that power is actually unbalancing everything that the government tries to put in place. So we have to look at that. Correct.
Right.
But of course, we have to look at how to diversify our power mix. If we can, we are good now, almost 90% in green what? Renewable energy. And I think, I don't think it has been exploited properly, because if you go to production of commodities like steel, like cement, like what, there you cannot use our renewable energy because of the heat requirement. You have to use fossil fuel, the petroleum, and the petroleum always, the price keeps on fluctuating and going up. You can't predict because we don't produce it. So I think those are the issues that we need to address.
Yeah, that's very important. Do you have something to add?
No, just to say that the geothermal projects, the solar projects, the wind power projects, Turkana, Menengai, these are all projects that we have co-financed. So we've put a lot of wind in the sails of these strategic imperatives. And then, of course, the baseload energy, which is important for industrialization, that's also coming through across the border. Kenya will be accessing very cheap power from Ethiopia, which will help, improve that competitiveness. This issue that Gideon has mentioned will be addressed in some way by that. We're facilitating that as well from the COMESA side.
I'm sure the manufacturers are looking forward to that moment. Of course, us as households as well. Now, let's talk about small and medium enterprises. We know that a lot of cross-border trade is done by SMEs, women, youth, small traders. And I would like to hear what is being done to ensure that at that point of crossing the border, of course, across all borders in the region, that we are making things seamless, making things easier before we discuss the issue of formalization for the small traders as well. You'd like to take that first?
Yeah, I think there are systems in place. We have what we call simplified trading regime. That is basically meant to facilitate this small person who is moving across the border every now and then, and with minimal quantities of carrying minimal quantities of goods. That one I think is there. The borders are being we are setting up one-stop border stations where you can go and get all the requirements actually settled for you to cross the border with your goods. The government is working to make it easier to get yourself and your goods cleared at the entry and exit points. And I think with that one, our small traders will be in a good position to actually move around. We know they move daily. They can even move 2 to 3 times in a day because it is going and coming back, and they are not like trucks which go and then come back after 1 or 2 weeks. For them, it is a daily. You wake up and you go and you come back. So as a COMESA, there is a simplified trading regime, which is meant to take care of that kind of trade, to facilitate trade among the small, the medium and small enterprises in the region. Yeah, so, and also, of course, we are doing a lot of we call it, they are being taught. There are a lot of, we normally have a lot of engagements. We call it creating awareness. We are creating awareness among them to know that these facilities and these systems exist so that they can make use of them. They don't have to cross, go through border crossings that are not manned actually, as if they are hiding. Yeah, because those who are not aware that you can move, cross Malaba and go into Uganda might use another route, thinking that you are helping yourself, while there are already systems in place to help you to cross, go and trade and come back. Yeah.
Right, facilitation of trade for small traders?
Well, there's a number of ways in which the financial sector does that.
Right.
Typically, the banks within countries play the biggest role. Kenya is blessed with very strong banks. You have the KCBs, the equities, the NCBAs of this world. And they of course, play a leading role, especially on the local currency financing side. But when there's need for hard currency, what we sometimes do from the COMESA side is we have specialized facilities that we make available to Kenyan banks. So KCB and others will sometimes receive special facilities from us to allow them to on-lend that to other borrowers, and also to trading enterprises that need hard currency as well. And then we also support innovations. We have special programs that promote digital lending so that the small enterprises can access finance much more easily, taking into account the latest developments in artificial intelligence and digitization to try to sort of speed up the time frames. Turnaround times are always very sensitive for SMEs. They get locked up in bureaucracy too much, both private sector bureaucracy in banks, but also government side. And so digitization and using all of this new ways of doing business is something that we're also working on, and Kenya will be one of the pilot countries where they'll be receiving special funding for this type of outreach.
And of course, that's in line with the theme of this particular summit. It's leveraging digitalization to deepen value chains for sustainable, inclusive growth. We will delve more into digitization, innovation, and what that does for trade around the particular regional bloc. But now we want to take a quick break right here on BizCheck. Remember, I'm talking about matters enhancing regional trade, the upcoming 24th COMESA Summit, which is happening next week from 6th to the 9th of October. With me in studio is Admasu Tadese, Group Managing Director, Trade and Development Bank Group, as well as Director of Industries at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Gideon Apio Oele. Let's take that quick break. Welcome back. You are watching BizCheck here on KBC Channel 1, and we are talking about enhancing regional trade. In studio, I have Admasu Tadese, who is the Group Managing Director, Trade and Development Bank Group, as well as the Director of Industries at Kenya's Ministry of Trade and Industry, that is Gideon Apio Oele. Thank you for staying with us. Now let's delve into the issue of digitalization that you had brought about. Of course, we know that it's the digital age. We are getting into the AI age already, and there's a lot that technology can do to enhance trade and ease the way of doing business. So I'd like to hear from you practical examples of what is being done. I'll start with you, Admasu.
Well, you know, the banking sector has been undergoing a revolution in terms of digitization for quite some time, and COVID put a lot of wind in that sail. Now, of course, there's a lot more applications that are coming online where banks and specialized financial institutions, intermediaries, microfinance entities are exploring various ways of rolling out enabled applications that really reduces the turnaround time and moves away from some of the more cumbersome ways in which financial institutions have used to actually reach some of these enterprises, and so we're seeing algorithms, we're seeing special apps come online, we're seeing artificial intelligence being embedded in some of those areas that would help reduce some of the due diligence that typically takes a lot of time and is costly. We're also exploring non-collateralized ways of doing this. That's another big constraint that SMEs have. They don't have collateral. But there have been very interesting models in which one can provide financing outside of the collateralization requirement. Here in Kenya, banks like Equity Bank have done tremendously well in terms of pushing the SME customer base, using agency banking and other types of ways of reaching that type of prospective borrower. And it's been a good story. Kenya has also got fantastic fintech. Fintech is part of the digitization story, and there's a lot of exciting developments here, a lot of new business models under exploration. This is a Silicon Valley of Africa in many ways, and so we're keeping our eyes wide open. Savannah. And we're not the ones at the cutting edge, but we are watching to see which models are going to get traction, and then we'll try to support them as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. They call it the Silicon Savannah.
There you go. That's the right term.
Yeah. So Gideon, from you, the issue of technology, adopting technology to enhance trade.
Now I'll talk on that in two ways.
Right.
As a manufacturer, it is one way of making things that you have, a new way of doing things, making it easier for you to produce whatever you want to produce, new technology, new products, faster processing. All these things do take place when you are using the new technology, the digital technology. Now that is as a manufacturer. As a trader, because when you manufacture, you want to actually find a market for your products. Yeah, so when we talk of the e-commerce, we talk of adverts of advertising your products, and making sure that your market outreach is expanded. You find that use of the new technology makes sense to you. You don't have to employ so many marketeers to market for you your product. So it is both important in production and as well as in distribution of your products, what you have made. And I think it is very important that actually we work on that and make sure that our people move into this new space so that they become competitive, they become faster. You reach everywhere faster than any other person who is not using it. And then things actually would just be working for us nicely. Because in business, you need a faster movement. Everything should move seamlessly at a very high speed. And that is what the digital technology and all other emerging technologies bring to the table when we are making decisions on manufacturing and marketing our products.
Yes. Of course, needless to say that Kenya is a powerhouse in terms of technology in the region.
Yes.
But to adopt technology, there needs to be infrastructure, and also even for companies or corporates or governments to adopt technology, there has to be investment that goes into it. I would like you to comment on now the financing bit of technology, especially for this region.
Well, you know, there are specialized funders who really take an interest in supporting that segment of the business community, and you have venture capital funds, you have private equity firms, you have on the lending side banks, of course, that always looking to find customers that are growing and coming out with new models. So there is a lot of capacity. I think the constraint is more on the risk capital side, which is the equity financing. Even though you have some venture capitalists, you just don't have anywhere remotely close enough what is required. And that is really where the constraint is. And we are not a venture capital firm, so we're not able to address it. But we do have some programs that we're exploring to see if we can put some more capacity into those who are specialized in doing that. Work in progress.
Work in progress. So there is an opportunity there.
There is an opportunity. Of course, the gap is very big. I think the whole continent has got big constraints on that front. In fact, it's a global phenomenon, really, to be fair. It's not unique to one country. But I think there is a lot of excitement because at least Kenya has the advantage of a fantastic endowment of human capital. I think, you know, all of this innovation and technology sits on human capital. And I think there, at least Kenya's had a lot of wind behind it, enabling a lot of foreign investors and innovators and technologists to look at Nairobi and Kenya as a platform and a major hub to proceed with some of these initiatives. So it's quite exciting. I think we've adopted Nairobi as one of our regional operations hubs. We're headquartered in Mauritius and Burundi, but Kenya has become a very attractive jurisdiction, and we've put up some very strong capacity here to support the region, but of course support Kenya in a big way too. And so when we start piloting new programs and new facilities, Kenya tends to be at the initial stages of those new rollouts. So again, as I mentioned, the 1.8 billion of financing that's been done here from the COMESA FI side has been a great story in the Kenya experience, and it's growing even more. We're looking at green housing facilities here because in addition to manufacturing and industrialization, there's other sectors that are also very much in need of support, and housing is one of them. Of course, your good government has a lot of ideas around pushing that particular agenda. We'll be rolling out a new fund to support green housing both here and in the region. And that's another exciting initiative that is under discussion during the COMESA summit. We'll also be looking at other funds that support electric mobility rather, to help support the rapid adoption of electric vehicles as part of the climate agenda, decarbonizing the economies. So there's a lot of new funds, new facilities, new initiatives that are being considered, and COMESA has outstanding partnerships. The World Bank Group, but also banks and policy funders out of the Gulf region, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. We have a lot of partners out of China and Japan as well. The Europeans have always been very committed. So they also support us to support the region, and of course Kenya is often a very strong beneficiary of all of that. So there's a lot of intermediation of capital and special facilities that come to COMESA. And of course, Kenya, being a founding member, gets its fair share, right, to put it lightly.
Awesome. Let's talk about still on technology. There is the issue of innovating for local problems. We know that for a very long time, M-Pesa has been the unicorn, so to say, in the region. And of course, we'd like to see more of such innovations, you know, taking root. I would like to throw this question to you, Gideon, first. Just tell us your thoughts in terms of the young people innovating for the problems that we are facing in the region and Kenya as well.
It is very important, actually. Let me use an example. Yesterday, you saw the president driving a vehicle that has been done in Kenya. In automotive sector, most of the vehicles we assemble in Kenya, we import the CKDs, the kits from the OEM, wherever they are, in Asia, in Europe. We are right now seeing young people coming up to make parts for the automotive sector within the country. We have a regulatory framework that allows you to bring some kits from outside, parts from outside, and other parts you make here. In the recent past, we have seen a number of young people coming to the office, applying. They want to do these kits. They are aware that these things, the brake pads, cleaners, all these ones, they are aware these things can. And they come with quite very good ideas on how these things should be manufactured here. And yesterday when I saw the president driving a vehicle that we call, that is made here, the OEM is a Kenyan. The person who originated the vehicle is a Kenyan. So this one gives us an impression that actually we can do a lot of things ourselves here. We have the space is there, and as he has said, the fundings are available. What these people, our young people, need to do is now to come together and see how they can exploit the opportunities presented by the integration, the trading blocks like COMESA. So they're educated. And with that one, the manpower, we think we have. So what would prevent them actually would be getting the funding. If the funding is there, and with the government guidance, and the market is there, why can't they go into innovating, producing innovative products, and making new products which we are not making right now, and actually transforming some of the way we do things to make things easier for us and faster for us. So I think we have the opportunity, and that is what COMESA is presenting to us even as we talk, that the opportunity is there, take advantage of it and exploit it. Come with whatever skill you have, make whatever you want to make, you will get a space for it within the country and within the region.
Right. Your thoughts, Tadesse?
I think he said it all.
Right. He said it all. One of the challenges that the COMESA bloc is facing is, of course, instability and conflict, and that affects the ease of doing business or even the possibility of doing business. What would be your rallying call for the heads of state, even as they meet next week? I'll start with you.
Well, that's a tough one. I think some institutions are very well positioned to address these matters. I think the African Union has been at the forefront of some of these matters, and then you have other institutions, COMESA and IGAD. It's been sad to see some of the countries in our trading bloc get caught up with these very damaging civil conflicts. It's very complicated because there's so many different players involved, and so it's not something that Africa can easily resolve on its own. Fortunately, there are some committed international partners who are working closely with the COMESA, African Union institutions to put more pressure on the different players to get everybody to be a lot more sober and find ways to negotiate and compromise and move forward, because they've tried their own path and it's not worked. So it's clear that there's need for much stronger intervention from outside, because you can't leave it to some of these countries because they just don't always seem to understand that it's just not working. They keep trying and it's failing. So compromise sometimes has to be pushed from the regional level, and global players have to come in and also help, because there's also international players involved in some of these situations.
Right, thank you. Your thoughts on that?
I think conflicts and wars thrive where there's nothing bringing people together. The best way to deal with all this instability is to integrate more. People will not fight if you know the country you are fighting with is your market. So if you know what you are going to lose, it will be difficult even to begin to think that you can fight. So let us integrate more and more. And by integrating more and more, we are preventing the possibility that we will fight, because we know what all of us will lose in fighting. So right now, people can fight, because if you are not highly integrated, if I know I'm trading more with Europe than my neighbor, what do I lose? If a small issue, we can blow it out of proportion and we. But if I know that is the market I'm targeting, there will be a way of, even the business community themselves will come to mediate before you reach that level, because the moment you start blocking the borders, then you will find the business community coming in and telling you now, what do we want? What do you want us to do? And when you realize that factories are closing because you are going to war, more of your people are losing jobs, and soon they will be fighting you when they have lost jobs and they are in the streets. So the best way to prevent the possibility of war is to make sure that your economies are highly integrated. Because with that, the cost of going into a war becomes something you cannot even contemplate.
Right. Thank you very much for your thoughts. I would like to give each of you 1 minute to give us your closing remarks and maybe what you're looking forward to during the summit next week. Go ahead, Teresa.
Well, I think the value proposition of regional integration is becoming more and more profound. For reasons we've discussed, I think we all just have to push very hard to make it happen, get those things under our control as Africans sorted out. There will be things beyond our control, but I think we have to really focus on doing those internal institutional issues, giving them priority, so at least when the rest of the world is asked to come to the party, they see that we've done our part first.
Thank you very much. Gideon?
The world is becoming a bit fluid as a business arena. And the best way to address this is to strengthen COMESA and of course make sure that we finalize the tripartite, we do the continental free trade area, we make sure that we finalize them so that we can trade within ourselves, because looking at outside is becoming a little bit, you don't know policy changes. They take place all these days overnight. You wake up and you find now you cannot access that market and this market. So we would just pray that our leaders actually strengthen institutions like COMESA so that we can do more trade and we can allow movement of factors of production. And with that one, we'll be good to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts. I appreciate it. That is the conversation on enhancing regional trade, specifically focusing on the COMESA region ahead of the 24th COMESA Summit scheduled for next week. And of course, we have been discussing issues such as how to ensure that more trade is happening, deal with conflict, open up the borders, make sure that people and goods are moving more easily. And I have been having this conversation with Gideon Apio Oele, who is the Director of Industries in charge at the Ministry of Trade and Industry in Kenya, as well as Admasu Tadese, who is the Group Managing Director, Trade and Development Bank Group. Thank you very much for your valued company and watching the program. Sheila Kayaro-Yogo is on standby to bring you Kurunzi Mashinani. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Bye-bye.